On October 24, 2020, the MMA world was stunned. After defeating Justin Gaethje at UFC 254 with what many consider the greatest performance of his career, Khabib Nurmagomedov announced his retirement. It was his first fight without his father and mentor, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, who had tragically passed away earlier that year. With grief heavy on his heart, Khabib placed his gloves in the octagon and declared it was his final fight. At 29-0, undefeated and untouchable, the Daji champion walked away at his peak. Fans were left wondering what more he could have achieved had he continued. UFC President Dana White later admitted in a 2022 interview that Khabib retired too soon, and many agreed. The road to 32-0 was within reach, and blockbuster fights were already lining up. The most obvious matchup was a rematch with Conor McGregor. Their first meeting at UFC 229 was the biggest pay-per-view in UFC history, selling 2.4 million buys. White was desperate to stage the rematch, believing it could shatter records again, especially with Khabib chasing the 30-0 milestone. Even after his retirement announcement, the UFC kept Khabib as champion for months, hoping he might reconsider. The plan seemed clear. The winner of McGregor vs. Dustin Poirier at UFC 257 would earn the shot. White even said if McGregor won impressively, it would be impossible to deny him. But Dustin shocked the world by knocking out McGregor, becoming the first man to finish him with strikes. That victory could have set up Poirier vs. Khabib for the belt, but instead, Dustin opted for a trilogy with McGregor. Meanwhile, the lightweight division shifted rapidly. Charles Oliveira Rosi as a contender, capturing the vacant title with a thrilling knockout of Michael Chandler at UFC 269. A matchup between Oliveira and Khabib would have been a dream for fans. A legend against a dangerous submission specialist. Yet many believed Khabib's suffocating grappling would have proved too much, as it had for everyone else, had Khabib achieved 30-0. The next chapter could have been even bigger, moving up to welterweight. At the time, Kamaru Usman dominated the division, defending against Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, and Gilbert Burns. A super fight between Usman and Khabib would have been monumental, pitting Usman's size and striking against Khabib. Relentless wrestling. Analysts debated endlessly, but many thought Khabib's pace and pressure might have been enough to break even us men. Imagine Khabib submitting Usman, becoming a two-division champion, and retiring undefeated at 32-0. It would have cemented his place as the greatest fighter of all time. Instead, he chose to honor his promise to his mother and walk away at 29-0, preserving a perfect legacy. Khabib's retirement left fans with endless what-ifs. Could he have reached 30-0? Could he have beaten Usman for double champ status? Those questions will never be answered, but perhaps that mystery is part of his greatness. Khabib left behind a flawless record, a legacy of discipline, and an eternal aura that ensures his name will live on as one of MMA's true legends. Before moving on to the next news, we have a quick request for you. We're always working to improve our content and truly value your support. If you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, it would mean a lot to us. That way, you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. Nassourdine. Imavov recently surprised fans with a major revelation, posting a video on social media that revealed his fight night weight against Kio Baralho was just 194 pounds 87.9 kilograms. This immediately sparked discussion among analysts and fans because the number is significantly lower than what most UFC middleweights weigh after rehydration. Typically, fighters in the middleweight division cut from very high walk-around weights to hit the 185-pound limit, only to rehydrate and step back into the cage well above 200 pounds. In fact, many fighters balloon up to 210 to 225 pounds within 24 hours of the weigh-in. Paulo Costa, one of the most notorious examples, has entered the octagon as heavy as 215 pounds. This means Costa has been over 20 pounds heavier than him. On Fight Night, a staggering size gap at the elite level. Imavov's decision to reveal his weight opens up a deeper conversation about size, weight cutting, and performance in modern MMA. For years, fighters have relied on extreme weight cuts to secure a size and power advantage over smaller opponents, but this practice comes with consequences: severe dehydration, compromised cardio, and long-term health risks. Imavov, by contrast, appears to cut far less weight, fighting closer to his natural frame. The benefits of his approach are clear. With less depletion, Imavov may preserve better cardio endurance, quicker recovery, and improved sharpness inside the cage. His performance against Baralho reflected that advantage. He looked agile, composed, and efficient, with many observers noting that his lighter frame made him quicker and more precise in exchanges. Instead of relying on brute force or sheer size, Imavov leaned on speed, technique, and timing. Still, there are trade-offs. In a division stacked with heavy hitters and naturally larger men, giving up 15 to 20 pounds can be a significant disadvantage in terms of raw strength durability, and clinch control. Opponents like Costa, who fight with near light heavyweight physiques, can impose their size in grappling exchanges and absorb more damage. Imavov's success, therefore, depends on his ability to offset those disadvantages with strategy, skill, and conditioning. His revelation has also fueled speculation about a potential move down to welterweight. At 194 pounds on fight night, Imavov is only around 9 pounds above the welterweight rehydration range. Many believe his frame would be better suited for 170, where he could enjoy a size advantage rather than consistently being the smaller man in middleweight. However, a cut to welterweight would bring its own challenges, requiring discipline and careful management to ensure he doesn't lose the cardio and sharpness that define his style. By openly sharing his fight night weight, Imavov is not just being transparent, he is showing confidence in his unique approach. In an era where fighters often guard these details closely, his honesty highlights that success in MMA isn't solely about size or mass. At 194 pounds, he is carving a fresh path in the middleweight division, proving that precision, endurance, and intelligence can rival brute size and strength. Whether this unconventional approach ultimately becomes his greatest asset or a long-term limitation, one thing is clear: Nasruddin Imavov is reshaping the conversation around weight cutting in MMA, and his journey will continue to intrigue fans as he climbs the ranks. Move on to another news. Ilia Topuria has once again captured headlines with a bold and fearless claim, this time targeting one of the most respected names in professional boxing. The UFC lightweight champion has openly declared that he is ready to step into the boxing ring with none other than Terence Crawford, widely regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. This surprising declaration comes at a time when Crawford is preparing for one of the biggest fights of his career. On Saturday, September 13th, the boxing superstar is set to face Canelo Alvarez in a historic showdown at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. The blockbuster event is being co-promoted by Turkey Alesic alongside UFC CEO Dana White. White's involvement is particularly noteworthy, as earlier this year he officially confirmed his long-anticipated move into boxing promotion after more than a decade of consideration. That announcement opened the door for UFC fighters to explore crossover opportunities in boxing, and Ilia Topuria is now among the most vocal athletes to throw his name into the conversation. Fresh off capturing the UFC lightweight world title, Topuria has wasted no time in asserting his dominance outside the octagon as well. Just days before Crawford's mega fight, Ilia posted a picture of himself alongside the boxing champion on social media, asking fans who they thought would win if the two ever stepped into the ring. The post quickly went viral, sparking heated debates among both MMA and boxing communities. While most crossover callouts are dismissed as publicity stunts, Topuria doubled down by issuing a confident statement less than 24 hours later. "I won't talk about what would happen between me and Crawford in an octagon," he wrote. "I'll talk about what would happen in a ring. I put him to sleep on the first contact." The sheer confidence behind this statement immediately caught the attention of fans, fighters, and analysts worldwide. Many began to speculate whether Topuria's power and precision, which have served him so well in the UFC, could truly translate into the boxing ring against an elite technician like Crawford. Meanwhile, Crawford remains fully focused on the massive challenge ahead of him in Canelo Alvarez, a fight that could define his career. But Topuria's declaration serves as a reminder of the growing interest in crossover combat sports events, a trend that has generated record-breaking pay numbers in recent years. Inside the UFC, Ilia Topuria's own future is equally intriguing. He is yet to book his first title defense after his stunning first-round knockout victory over Charles Oliveira in June, a performance that shocked the MMA world and solidified his status as one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport. The most likely scenario for his next fight is a showdown with the number 2 ranked contender, Arman Tsarukyan, a matchup that fans are eagerly anticipating due to both fighters' elite striking and relentless pace. Other possibilities include a high-profile rematch with Max Holloway or a clash with Justin Gaethje, who has made it clear that he only wants big fights moving forward. But, for now, Topuria continues to build his reputation as one of the boldest champions in the UFC. His willingness to call out boxing's best shows he is not just looking to dominate the lightweight division, but to cement himself as a global superstar. Whether or not a fight with Crawford ever materializes, Topuria has already succeeded in capturing the attention of fans worldwide with his fearlessness, confidence, and ability to back up his words with spectacular performances. Move on to another news. Dana White is once again facing criticism from the MMA community after fans accused him and the UFC of neglecting their own fighters in favor of outside projects. The controversy began when the UFC's official YouTube channel released a new episode of Embedded, but instead of covering the upcoming UFC Fight Night card, the focus was placed on the massive boxing showdown between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford in Las Vegas. Fans quickly voiced their outrage. accusing White of using the UFC's powerful platform to promote ventures outside the Octagon. Many compared the move to the controversial Power Slap project, which has also been criticized for siphoning attention and resources away from the UFC's core product. This time, critics argue that the UFC has sidelined its own athletes, particularly Diego Lopez and Jane Silva, who are headlining the upcoming UFC card in favor of giving exposure to boxing. Historically, UFC Embedded has been a behind-the-scenes promotional series that spotlights fight night and headliners, offering fans a closer look at the fighters' preparations and personalities. For Lopez and Silva, who are building momentum as rising stars, the absence of full embedded coverage felt like a missed opportunity. While the UFC did release a short highlight package of Lopez's fight with Brian Ortega and a community feature showing Lopez giving back, many fans saw these efforts as minimal compared to the high-level production and exposure normally given to UFC main events. The backlash was immediate and intense across social media. One fan wrote, "UFC letting Netflix drop boxing embedded while Diego vs. Silva gets no promo. Dana chasing that Saudi money hard." Another comment read, "Real fighters in our backyard getting ignored. Fire Baldy." Others didn't hold back either, calling the decision embarrassing and disgraceful, arguing that the UFC was putting more effort into promoting boxing than its own sport. Some fans pointed out the irony of UFC neglecting its main events. Can Dana and the UFC promote the actual main events a little bit more? "We got Pota versus Anna next month, for crying out loud," one frustrated fan wrote, noting how certain fighters have carried the UFC brand through tough stretches, only to now see attention diverted elsewhere. Critics also raised questions about branding, asking why boxing content was uploaded to UFC's channel at all. They suggested that a separate TKO Group platform would make more sense, instead of merging everything in a way that feels forced. As one angry viewer put it, "UFC Embedded is for UFC. Want to make Zuffa Embedded? Fine, but this feels like Amazon remaking Finding Nemo." The overall sentiment is clear. Fans do not want UFC's flagship content diluted with outside ventures. Some even accuse the promotion of deliberately making the upcoming UFC card weaker in order to divert fan attention toward boxing, which White and his partners are heavily invested in. Others insisted that UFC fighters, especially headliners, deserve proper spotlight, regardless of how big outside projects may seem. While some industry voices acknowledge that cross-promotion with boxing could attract new fans and expand the combat sports audience, the overwhelming reaction has been negative. For many longtime supporters, Embedded represents UFC's identity, and shifting that platform to promote boxing felt like a betrayal. In the end, prioritizing boxing, Embedded over UFC Embedded, has left a sour taste with fans, who are demanding that White and the promotion refocus on what matters most: the fighters who step into the Octagon. The debate raises a larger question: can UFC balance its global ambitions without sacrificing the loyalty of its core fanbase? Move on to another news. Former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker recently weighed in on one of the sport's most polarizing figures, Khamzat Chimaev. In a candid discussion, Whittaker admitted that at this moment, he simply does not see anyone capable of defeating Chimaev inside the Octagon. His assessment comes not from hype or speculation, but from observing Chimaev's dominant wrestling, relentless pace, and ability to impose his will on world-class opponents. According to Whittaker, the only realistic path to victory over Chimaev lies in the realm of elite-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, while many fighters at the top of the UFC are well-rounded. Whittaker emphasized that Chimaev's grappling is on such a high level that conventional strategies like striking exchanges or traditional defensive wrestling are unlikely to work. Instead, it would take someone with submission skills sharp enough to turn Chimaev's offensive pressure against him. If anyone is going to beat him, it has to be through world-class Jiu-Jitsu, Whittaker explained. He noted that fighters, such as Gilbert Burns, who hold black belt credentials and have proven success against elite grapplers, might represent the kind of threat that could cause problems for Chimaev. Burns, for example, nearly caught Chimaev in dangerous positions during their high-paced 2022 battle, showing that it is possible to exploit openings against the Chechen-born powerhouse. Whittaker went on to highlight the unpredictability of mixed martial arts. Despite Chimaev's dominance, the sport has a way of producing shocking moments. "Fights are funny," Whittaker said. "Anything can happen. Maybe Chimaev dives into a knee or a perfectly timed strike. With 4-ounce gloves, even the slightest mistake can alter the course of a fight. And no competitor is immune to the chaos that sometimes unfolds inside the cage." Still, Whittaker stressed that barring those rare, unpredictable scenarios, Chimaev is a nightmare matchup for almost everyone on the roster. His relentless wrestling pressure suffocates opponents, giving them little time or space to execute their own game plans. Fighters who prefer to strike are forced to defend takedowns and risk being exhausted by Chimaev's pace, while grapplers often find themselves unable to establish dominant positions against his raw strength and technical ability. The discussion then shifted to Chimaev's potential matchup with Nurmagomedov. Whittaker admitted that Imavov has strong jiu-jitsu skills, but he questioned whether they are at the elite level required to truly neutralize Chimaev. Imavov has shown creativity and composure in past fights, yet Chimaev represents a unique challenge, one that demands not just skill but also perfect execution under relentless pressure. Ultimately, Whittaker painted a picture of Chimaev as a fighter in his prime who appears nearly unstoppable. His assessment echoed what many analysts and fans have said. Chimaev's combination of physicality, wrestling, and confidence makes him one of the most dangerous athletes in MMA today. While acknowledging the unpredictability of combat sports, Whittaker concluded that for now, Chimaev's reign of dominance looks set to continue. The only real question is whether an opponent with the perfect blend of elite jiu-jitsu and composure will emerge to finally test the man many believe could become the UFC's next long-term superstar.